Albuquerque police officer Jeremy Deer fatally shot Mary Hawks earlier this year, but there was no lapel video of the incident. Mr. Deer told investigators he turned the camera on, but the manufacturer could not confirm that. He was fired this week for insubordination and untruthfulness. Interesting word there. Mr. Deer is appealing, and his attorney says it's impossible for any officer to fully comply with the APD policy requiring all contacts with citizens be recorded. Now, critics have lauded the policy, certainly, but criticized APD for not enforcing it. This incident comes in the wake of protests over a decision not to indict an officer in the shooting of an unarmed man in Ferguson, Missouri. And in response, President Barack Obama is pushing for federal funding to supply 50,000 body cameras to record such incidents, as well as pay for more training for officers. So joining me to talk about this and other stories around the state this week is line regular Tom Garrity of the Garrity Group, public relations firm. Also here is line regular Sophie Martin. She is an attorney and editor of the Duke City Fix. And joining us once again is former state senator Dee Dee Feldman, and we welcome back former state representative Janice Arnold-Jones to the table as well. Now, Tom, the Department of Justice is requiring APD to use these things. We know that, the consent decree. I'm curious if this fire was really about sending a message to the other officers, the community. What's going on here? What was your sense of it?
Well, there were many different levels. I mean, I think there were many folks that the city wanted to reach with this message. One was the police force, put everybody on, on notice to say, we're serious about this. I think it sends a message to the community because it's like, here are the allegations. We went through the process. Some of the things that that Chief Eden was talking about included process and policy.
Right.
And when you focus on those two things in public messaging, you're reassuring the public that there is something in place and that they take it seriously. And that provides a greater confidence, I believe, for the city of Albuquerque residents, to say that, they do take this seriously and there will be changes.
His attorney, of course, is scapegoat. Lots of other things are being said out there. This is impossible to do. Is it clear cut to you this was a justifiable firing in your mind when you see this?
Well, I think it was long overdue. I've always believed that if officers don't turn on their lapel cameras, they should be removed from the force. And this one was a case where he had not done that 3 times. Now, the question as to whether these lapel cameras function is a very important one, and otherwise this whole thing is going to be a tremendous windfall for the makers of lapel cameras. And right now in Albuquerque, I mean, I think his lawyer has a point. We have maybe a play to pay situation here with the former police chief getting a contract for Taser International. Somebody should be out there checking the contributions from Taser International, and I take it there is one competitor that they have called ViewView or something. ViewView. Somebody should be looking into them right now because they're lining up right now nationwide for a big windfall.
There's going to be plenty of business besides 2 manufacturers for these kind of cameras. So good to see you, by the way. Glad you're here. Absolutely. With the president calling for these cameras as well, the 50,000, is this the panacea lightning strike here, or do you have other issues we need to address as well?
Well, I do think there are other issues, and I agree with Senator Feldman that I'm just wondering where the lobbyists are, because $75 million is a lot of money for cameras. But the truth of the matter is that the technology, I believe, as much as I love cameras, I do, but it is not perfect. Yet in this case, the police officers, I believe, and having sat on city council, we were told that it was standard operating procedure to use those lapel cams. If someone knowingly and intentionally failed to turn it on, then I think termination is absolutely appropriate. And I'm looking at this whole list of activities and the suggestion that there is no standard operating procedure. That gives me pause. But looking at it from the human resources point of view, I think that this officer may have been a problem, and they were looking for a way to document.
Gotcha. Exactly right. Sophie, your initial thought when you saw this?
You know, I think, like some of the other people around the table, there's a little push and pull in my mind. First of all, I think be careful what you wish for. Across the country, we see communities pushing for lapel cams. At some point, there will be the moment where we see too much inside the home of an innocent person, where something is documented that really does violate the reasonable expectations of privacy that we have as citizens. That said, I think that these are a tool that can be quite helpful. I am concerned that the technology does not appear to be in place right now to determine whether an officer has intentionally left the camera off or there's been a malfunction. And it seems to me that when you place people's jobs on the line over that issue, you need to have some greater level of certainty. Now, I'm going to say of this particular officer, hearing that there's been what sounds like a pattern of the camera not being on, that does raise some greater questions. But I can conceive of an officer is in the field, the camera stops working. Does the officer then pull back because their job is on the line?
Exactly right. That's a good point, because Tom, we're all sort of nerds here, and we love gear and stuff
Yes,
like that.
so
Some of us
much.
more than others.
We do.
But unless it's like a voice-activated system, you're looking for a physical act to turn something on in a high-stress situation.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different things that have to go on to make sure that happens every time. So is it reasonable to give some grace period, perhaps, for officers to get used to this? Or is zero tolerance the only thing the public's going to accept here?
Well, I believe that, as soon as equipment like that is introduced, I think there has to be a grace period. But that grace period has passed. I mean, because it has been in place through three different police chiefs at the Albuquerque Police Department. So, that grace period has passed. And, I think the cameras are important. I think, Sophie brings up a great point as far as the civil liberties, issues that surface as a result. But what this really comes down to, in my opinion, is how does a police department build trust within a community that really has a lot of distrust about it? And we're seeing it play out here in Albuquerque, but we're also seeing it play out around the country. And that is a very delicate balance, because in order for understanding to take place, you need to have both sides willing to listen. And right now, everybody's doing a lot of talking. And so, unfortunately, APD still needs to listen more. The community, the activist groups need to listen a little bit more as well. But back to your question, when you look at lapel cams and all that we're asking of our law enforcement officers, it is a lot of stuff to remember. I mean, the Miranda Act used to be the only, Miranda rights used to be the only thing officers had to really remember. Now it's lapel cam, all this other stuff. So, I think that there has to be that understanding, that officers have a lot on their mind when they're making these sometimes routine calls.
Sure. Dee Dee, as we sit here and tape this, of course, we've had a situation this week in New York and Staten Island and lots of other places Tom referenced, where in fact the video did not necessarily solve the problem.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there's a difficulty here. This is an extra step. We can't get into grand juries and stuff at this point at this table right now. But you see what I mean? It just because the video's there does not mean
It's not a
solved problem.
panacea.
Right.
It's not a panacea. And two things. First of all, just because the video's there doesn't mean that the police departments will release it. Two, that's another big credibility problem. Even if they function optimally, when do they release it? Who gets to decide when an ongoing investigation is completed? Those are questions. But really, the key, I think, to trust is adequate training. Rather than a device, there has to be an attitude, and there has to be training how to deal in Albuquerque, especially how to deal with people with mental illness. As well as the color line.
Well, let me stop you there, because we just got a few seconds left. I want to. You mentioned something interesting. This gets to Sophie's point, and I thought about this morning. What happens if an officer is recording in a situation with a mentally ill person? In that, it becomes almost like spectacle. These kind of videos. If you've been around this it's a difficult situation to deal with folks in this high stress situation. And so, Janice, civil liberties violations for even the mentally ill have to be considered at this point, it seems to me.
Absolutely, and I am a fan of video. So if you're in the legislative process, everything goes.
Sure.
But
you're in the public sphere there.
Absolutely, this is different, and the risk of literally trampling on someone's civil rights is very high. And don't forget that even with the lapel cams, you have to remember the adage, what you see depends on where you sit. And so you're only seeing the police officer's view. There is always another view. And this is supposed to shed light and give you a broader picture, but it won't give you the whole thing.
That's a good point. We'll end there. Up next, a discussion about the controversial Sandia mixed waste landfill.